demonstrations by me, but also in their small groups demonstrating culturally responsive learning activities, so that and materials. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I bring in multicultural paints and markers and crayons, pencils, and paper, and show them. We talk a lot. I bring in a lot of children's literature, multicultural children's literature, and I have read-arounds where they browse through books for 2 or 3 minutes and pass them on so that they get to look at the pictures and scan some of the words, and then later on they go and find multicultural books to share with their peers. Talk about making sure that all children see themselves represented in the classroom, in the environment, in the materials, in the instructional methods, in the content, in the books and resources that are presented for all students. So how's that for an answer?
Yeah, thank you for those examples. I think that was perfect.
Okay.
This next question is focused on the educators within the program.
Mm-hmm.
So how are educators within the program prepared themselves in utilizing culturally responsive practices within their courses?
Well, I think the first thing is all of our teachers and all of our professors and instructors have been teachers. And I think we interview very carefully before we hire them to find out what their experiences are in utilizing, culturally responsive practices. And that's a big part of our interview and processes on our personal meetings with them too. As chair, I'm the chair. I interview candidates individually specifically about that kind of question. So I found now that our most recent hires have lived abroad, speak other languages, have educated students in their own classrooms about diversity and global studies and English learners. So I see that having that background themselves really informs their practice. So that's one way. Faculty discussions are ongoing when these issues occur, or we have doubts, or we have questions, or right now Oregon, is developing curriculum for Native American studies and curriculum prepared by the tribes. So that's a topic. Now, how are we going to make sure that Native American history and sovereignty are included in our curriculum? Where will that be? And how will it change and transform the courses that we have? So ethnic studies, same thing. And so I think that we have an ongoing professional development opportunity within our faculty, and by going to conferences and by going to community meetings and by collaborating with our partners across campus. We are preparing our professors and instructors in this program to teach culturally responsive ways.
Great, thank you. This will be the last question, and then we'll take a peek at the rubric.
Okay.
So what challenges do you see in creating courses that prepare teacher candidates to ensure high-quality learning experiences for all students?
Well, I see the challenges are that our teachers come to us so often, and the majority of the time, from K-12 schools and sometimes community colleges where they have not had exposure or experience or education about diversity. So I think I'm always so delighted to find someone, say, from the Bay Area or Portland, who's had a little more exposure and experience and can contribute something peer to peer. So I think the biggest challenge in a rural state, in a rural area, is helping students to understand and approach people with whom they've had very little contact. And so that's the hardest thing. I mean, they do get a lot from the media, but often that's stereotypical and biased. And I do assess right away kind of what their background is. The very first day of class, I always send out a very extensive questionnaire to get them thinking about what exposure, education, and experiences they've had. And that's when I can kind of see the lay of the land with the students. And so I think that I wish we had more time. I wish we had more focus. I wish more courses could delve deeply into these topics, and that we had a better scope and sequence for how diversity is addressed throughout. I feel strongly that they haven't seen in their classrooms prior to coming to college much displayed or provided around culturally diverse people and learning differences and English learners' challenges. So I just feel like that naivete and lack of background knowledge and experience is a huge barrier. And it takes a long time for people to really surface their values, their biases, their potential prejudices, and grapple with them.
Thank you. It's hard for me to not engage my own thoughts on subjects, so I really appreciate your discussion and what you've had to share so far. So the last part... I
can imagine it would be really hard not to jump in.
Right.
It would make a much better two-way conversation, right?
Right, yes. And, it's obviously a subject that I'm passionate about.
Yes.
The last part, we're going to take a peek at a rubric that I have developed based upon the LEAD tool, which is out of Education Northwest, and also based upon Geneva Gay's culturally responsive teaching practices in an article she published a few years ago. But what I've done is I have modified it to be reflective of teacher education.
Great.
So, as we look through it, I will give you the overall theme of each part of the rubric, and then if you would just do more of a think aloud as you're looking at it. I'm not looking for a score or anything total, but I just want your perspective on how Southern Oregon's education program falls within this rubric.
Great.
Does that sound good? All right. Do you have the rubric up in front of you?
I do. So
okay.
Program mission for equity.
Yes, that is the first one.
Let's see. Okay. Wow. So, as I'm looking at this, I quickly skimmed exemplary practice and honestly don't feel that we're there yet. A few of us do some of those things, but overall, in terms of our program, then I went to proficient practice, and I'm thinking, I think we do address each well, I guess I would I would put us between 2 and a 3. I mean, we're almost to the proficient